hope the Wi-Fi is coming through clearly. Where I live in El Segundo, we've had a few fluctuations in the internet and everything that goes along with that. So hopefully you get a chance to receive all of this and without too many interruptions. So I appreciate your kindness and your patience with all of this right now. Well, welcome friends. Thank you so much for being here. My name's David, and as always, I love sharing this practice, so thank you for showing up and being here. Whether it's your first time or you've been here many times, thank you for showing up. For today's practice, the word compassion came up to me this morning. I was looking at a few things online and saw some threads through Facebook, and the word just started popping up in my head over and over and over again. And I felt it was when something that strongly starts to come into my field of view and start to turn on, I feel it's important to look at it. And so I took a little bit of time just meditating this morning, and as I went through my morning routine and looked up some quotes about compassion and understanding, and I even put a little post out there. But when it comes to the topic of compassion, compassion doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a label, it doesn't have a side, and it certainly doesn't have walls, because if it does have walls, then how can I, if I'm holding on to certain things, how can I get outside of that without a level of compassion? Compassion's not here to wall us in. Compassion's actually a practice in opening us up. And every single human being has been through an innumerable number of circumstances and situations and conditions, none of which I have ever been through. I've never walked through somebody else's shoes, so I don't know exactly where they're at, but I do have enough life experience under my belt and working with people to realize that whatever conditions I'm holding on to, that oftentimes sets the precedence for how I approach a situation. And so a lot of compassion is, quite honestly, practicing compassion towards ourselves. Where we hold pain, where we hold tension, where we hold stress, where we hold misalignments. I feel it's so important to look at that and understand that, whether it is physical or whether it is mental. But either one of the two, the whole practice of yoga is to learn to forge that connection a little bit more. And I know that if I act out of a space that is not compassionate moving forward, because I have in the past, and I know what that looks like, and I know how it comes back to me. So if I'm not practicing that on a regular basis, then I can only expect the same thing to occur. I'm fortunate enough to live with three beautiful children and a woman who I call my partner, Shelley, who help show me compassion all the time through the way they share their compassion towards me, as well as teaching me about that. And when it comes to compassion, it's not something that comes and goes and comes and goes. The fact of the matter is, compassion is here all the time. It's just, when does our own minds start to misalign with it based on the condition that happening and occurring either outside of us or something that we're holding on to. And I see this a lot in the recovery programs that I work in. You know, you have somebody that's fresh come off the streets and an inpatient, and how do you treat that person? Quite honestly. You know, and if we don't treat that person with love, if we don't treat that person with a level of honor and respect and compassion, then they're no better off than if they hadn't come in the first place. And the thing is addictions, whether we realize it, come in many different forms. For some, it's a substance. For some, it may be sex or pornography. For some, it's actually power and money. But regardless of what it is still practicing compassion. And no matter what that other person is doing or where they may be at, I know that within myself, I can take that power back as opposed to giving that power away. And I think that's where we find a lot of exhaustion in our own practices, is that we're constantly giving it out without giving it back to ourselves. Leo Buscaglia said, "Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around." And so it's practicing compassion through little things. We don't have to do big, extravagant things to practice compassion. Even if it's just smiling and making eye contact with someone. Even if it's just a little compliment saying, "Hey, you know, you have a beautiful smile," or "That's a wonderful looking dress on you," or "You look great in that shirt," just something. But it's just an honest valuation of just a little compliment that we can give somebody. John Joseph Powell said, "It is an absolute human certainty that no one can know his own beauty or perceive a sense of his own worth until it has been reflected back to him or her in the mirror of another loving, caring human being." And again, we don't really know what somebody else is going through. And because of that, well, let's just take on our own responsibility, perhaps, to just practice compassion the best that we can. And it's difficult. I'm certainly not perfect with it. There's some days that are easier based on what may be going on. And I say thank you, gratitude for that, because it's just another insight, another day that I get to have to work with that and look at myself a little bit more, where I might be missing something. But there's going to be days where compassion is easier than others. There's going to be news headlines, and there's going to be status updates, and all sorts of things that we may see, and that might trigger us in a way to move us away from that space of compassion. But that's where the real work is, to just bring us back to the present state. When we allow ourselves to be present, tension can be dissolved, stress can be dissolved, pain, hurt, misalignments can be dissolved, and we can move back to a state of balance. It's all a practice. I thank you for listening, and let's get into our practice today. This is a restorative practice, so it's going to be a little bit different than others. We're going to be holding postures a lot longer, and we're going to be holding those postures in stillness. And I'll just cue us to breathe, and I might share a few, notes of things that I feel are important. I have some more notes down here, but most importantly, you're deserving of love. You're deserving of compassion, and it first starts with ourselves and just looking inward and recognizing that. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's lay down on our backs. If you're going to walk the walk, you got to really walk the walk. As we lay down on our backs, let's lengthen through the legs. Let the shoulders relax. Let the arms relax. Let the hands turn, palms face up. Let's let go of our day. Let go of our week. Let go of what's next and what's to come. feel the flow of the breath into your body. And feel the flow of the breath out of the body. Observe the depth of the breath, the pace of the breath, and the balance in the breath. And let's take some time to breathe together. Please take a long, slow breath in, fill your lungs up. And exhale, let it go. Deep breath in, fill lungs up. And exhale, let it go. Deep breath in, please fill lungs up. And exhale, let it go. Deep breath in, fill lungs up. And exhale, letting it go. One more time. Deep breath in. And exhale, letting it go. Continue to breathe on your own. As you continue to breathe on your own, check in with your bodies. From your head to your toes, observing any tension, tightness, soreness, any imbalances. And as we move through our practice, practice compassion. Love yourself, love your body. Be with that love. Let that love be an expression that pours outwards. Place your left hand over your heart, right hand on the belly. And please take a long, slow, deep breath in. Fill your lungs all the way up to the top. And then hold the breath. Sip once. Sip twice. Sip 3 times. Now hold the breath. Let the chest open. Feel the belly rise a little more. Relax the face, lips, eyes, mouth, and forehead. And exhale, let it go. Smooth breath in, fill lungs up. Smooth breath out, exhale, letting it go. Please take another long, slow, deep breath in. Feel the belly rise. Let the chest expand. Collarbones spread. Shoulders down the back. Long spine. Relax the face, lips, eyes, mouth, and forehead. Hold your breath at the top. Sip once. Sip twice. Sip 3 times and hold. Exhale, let it go. Smooth breath in. one more time. Please take a long, slow, deep breath in. Feel the belly rise, chest expand, collarbone spread, shoulders down the back, long spine. Relax the face, lips, eyes, mouth, and forehead. Hold your breath at the top. Sip once. Sip twice. Sip 3 times. Hold the breath. Set an intention for your practice today. Set a personal goal. And exhale, let it go. Smooth breath in. Smooth breath out. Let's begin with an Om. Inhaling. Inhale, fill lungs up. And exhale, letting it go. Gently release the arms down along the sides and softly blink the eyes open. Ever so carefully and ever so slowly, on an inhale, please reach your arms up and over the head. Separate your hands. And as you separate your hands, open your hands wide. And then bring your legs together, point through your toes. And then reach your fingertips with wide open hands towards the wall that's behind you. Then point your toes forward, firm your thighs up, engaging the quadriceps and the hamstrings. And let us reach and extend, and we'll hold here. And as we were breathing, some thoughts came into my head, and I was just observed them for a little bit. But one of the things that came up was about how many times in my own life where maybe I didn't practice compassion, and that if I would have, the situation would have been changed just a little bit. And while I realize that I can't go back to my past and change that, just that thought being there was just a gentle reminder that, I know what it's like in the past to not practice compassion. And I know what the outcomes look like when I choose not to practice that way. But gratefully for many teachers that I've had that have reminded me, these little thoughts come up as reminders to go, oh yes, that's right. I always have a choice. And I know what's going to happen if I choose not to honor that choice. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, release the arms down along the sides. Let's hug both of our knees into our chest. And as we hug both of our knees into our chest, just a gentle rock side to side. I know what it's like to hold anger. I know what it's like to hold resentment. I know what it's like to hold pain. And if I would have just practiced a little bit more compassion in the past, I know that that would have been dissolved a lot more quickly. But we are all given different tools at different points of our life, and it's not about how old we are in the process or when we receive those tools. A tool is a tool is a tool. And when we are given a tool, it's looking at, well, where in our life where maybe we can just tighten up some bolts here or loosen some things here, allow ourselves to be more open here. But essentially, it's learning how to be a useful carpenter if we're really going to build a shelter for ourselves and perhaps invite others into that shelter. Come back towards center, hands on the shins, thighs drawn towards the chest, point the toes. Back of the head down, create a compact ball. Deep breath in, 5 breaths. Exhale. Full breath in. Exhale. breath in. Exhale. 2 more. Inhaling. Exhaling. And 1 more. Deep breath in. Exhale. Let's extend our left leg forward and bring our right knee in towards our chest, right thigh into our chest. Shoulder blades down the back, collarbones spread, elbows draw in, flex through the feet. And I'll give you another real life example that came up, and God bless him. We have a 17-year-old we live with, and I think like a lot of 17-year-olds, when I reflect back into my life, he's been lying to us recently, and there's always the initial reaction, which would be to get very upset and to get angry and to get frustrated with it. But underneath that layer, it's asking, well, this person needs to do this for a reason, so let's go into that a little bit more and why. Because I remember when I was a kid, and a few times I may have lied about little things, small things, there was a rationale and reason behind it. And in taking that time to just pause and not overreact, but to get down to some of the deeper levels about why that came up, we're able to have an honest, open conversation. And it's what it is. We're all growing here. I always say this, my friend Brian says, we're all children of God. We're all children of this great creator, whatever this is. And in that, we're all learning and growing. And it takes, if we're going to be adults in this and really be the bigger parties, it's recognizing that where we may have done that in the past, but also how would we have liked to be and have been treated moving forward. Otherwise, we are only carrying that same level of treatment forward, and that is the karmic hold that has us if we don't make a shift. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, please release the right leg down. Now, I'm not saying it's easy at all, don't get me wrong. Bring the left knee into the chest, bring the left thigh in towards the chest, flex through both feet. But it is so important to be aware of our thoughts, our initial reactions, that knee-jerk response that we have. I'll give you another example. Sometimes I'll have a feeling or a notion about something, and then I'll want to go on, Facebook or put a status update, and I'll be like halfway into a sentence and asking myself, what am I doing? Is this compassionate? Is this honest? Is this where I'm in alignment? And then I'll just kind of pull back a little bit and look at it and go, you know what? I don't need to say this. I can be in my heart with this, and the world's going to go on, and it's going to be okay. How can I shift this? And in doing that, something happens. A spark happens. I don't know what it is, but inside I can feel it. And then there's all of a sudden this release of tension. I only share that because I feel it's helpful to relay, and if that makes sense for some of you, awesome. If not, awesome. It's okay too. It doesn't have to. Please take a deep breath in. Exhale. And deep breath in. Exhale. Shake both legs out. Let's bend both of our knees. As we bend both of our knees, bring your feet together. Take your knees wide apart. And as you allow your knees to settle wide apart, cactus your arms. Focus on your breath. And as you focus on the breath, spread to the collarbones, draw the shoulder blades down the back. In yoga, we talk a lot about, some do, I know I do, I talk a lot about self-study And it's so important to study ourselves, to just step back a little bit from the I point of view and just look at the person point of view. Who's this person? And to look at it not with judgment, but just look at it with compassion a little bit and realize that this person's arrived here today and doing what they do for various XYZ reasons. And to have a level of compassion in that. Eventually, the more we begin to practice compassion, the more we begin to express it too. Whether it's just the little things we do to ourselves or the little things that we do to others, for others, but it is regrounding ourselves and bringing ourselves back to a state of presence, back to a space where we can feel ourselves, where we can feel our emotions, where we can observe our thoughts, remaining non-reactionary to them. You know, there is many infinite number of triggers that can set a person off. And in realization of that, well, how can I walk a little bit more softly? How can I tread a little bit more lightly? Not because I have to, but because I get to. Because something internally, something externally that is larger than me begins to say that this is part of the process. And a huge part of the process, I feel, as human beings, is letting go and learning to let go. Just because others aren't willing to yet, they have their own path and work that they have to do. That is not mine to own. But it is helpful and beneficial, just as my teachers have lovingly volunteered ways to step out of that. When we are ready to hear and when we are ready to listen, we will. And there's many times in my life where I had resistance and I was like, nope, not going to do that, never thought that, never, that's not who I am, blah, 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 blah. But what I realized was that the people that were sharing this with me actually loved me and cared about me and were just reminding me. It was the fact that my ego was so big and in the way that it was preventing me from seeing that. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Deep breath in. And exhale, let it go. Full breath in. And exhale, letting it go. Slowly take your hands down to the outer thighs and bring the knees together. As you bring your knees together, that may have opened up the hips a little bit. So take your arms directly out to your sides if you have the room and just windshield wiper your knees side to side, back and forth, back and forth. And then when you're ready, take your knees over to the right side. Cross your right ankle over the left. Allow the inner left knee to move down towards the ground. And you can add a little bit of pressure with the right ankle. Don't force it, but just gently press down. Turn your head to the left. Albert Einstein said, "Our task must be to free ourselves. By widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." And again, like conditioning after conditioning after conditioning, unless we have really, really looked at it, we will see that we are buried under piles, the self, the true self, not the idealized self. The idealized self came into form because of all the different conditions that was placed upon it. But beneath all of that, if you didn't have any of that conditioning at all, that is where love, compassion pours and springs out from. They call it the source. the source of all things. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I like to go with the latter, fortunately, because this is the work that we get to do now. If we're hearing this and receiving this, it is to look at some of those levels of condition that prevented us from practicing compassion towards others. You know, like many children, I was yelled at as a kid. You know, I got spanked. I was teased. I was made fun of. But if I don't forgive those people that did that, and if I don't accept that and just receive it as, you know, it's what I needed to see in order to go through, in order to be here today, to be able to speak about it with clarity, if I don't look back and practice compassion towards that, those people did that because of their conditioning. And the people that did that to them was based off of their conditioning, and so on and so forth, all the way back. But now is the time, if we're really going to change, we make that change. Let's not wait for another generation to make that change. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. If anything, and as I share with my classes at USC, those that make that change this lifetime, put forth that ball in motion and give those that are in a space of change or willingness to change an opportunity to do that. Slowly uncross the legs, inhale, come back towards center. And on the exhale, take the knees over to your left side. Cross your left ankle over the outer right knee. Bring the inner right knee down towards the ground as you turn your head to the right. You know, and I find this, I used to joke around a lot and make fun of people, and because I was made fun of a lot, and it was sort of like this jab because you did it to me, so now it's my turn to get mine, to get people back. But again, that is such an adolescent, like almost to the point of prepubescent way of looking at life. But for many people that it's still there, it still shows up. Because that level of integration and maturity and how that is looked at and worked with has not been fully integrated yet. It's not bad. I don't choose to look things at necessarily as good or bad. It's just what it is. It's sort of like not learning to walk just yet, not learning to run just yet, not learning to skip, not learning to hop. Well, for some people, they are still on a narrative where that part of maturation has not fully completed yet. And usually something has to happen in order for that to shift and change. And maybe it's this lifetime, maybe it's a different lifetime, who knows? But I can still practice compassion towards that individual. Take a deep breath in, fill lungs up. Exhale, let it go. Full breath in, fill lungs up. And then exhale, letting it go. One more deep breath in. And exhale, letting it go. Uncross the legs. Bring the feet back towards center, hips towards center, knees towards center. Please hug both your knees into your chest again. And then all I'd like us to do is take a full breath, inhale. And on the exhale, roll to your right. And then keep your knees bent. All we're going to do is let our right ear rest on our right shoulder. And then crawl the hand out. So press down through your right hand. And if this feels good, you can stay here. If you'd like a little bit more, at this point, maybe you start to straighten through your legs and crawl the hand out a little more. If you have a tight side back, latissimus dorsi muscles, or tight shoulders, you may feel a stretch here. Keep the arm active and engaged. That will help with the stretch. Every now and then, crawl the right hand just a little bit more. Deep breath in. Exhale. You know, and the practice of compassion at first isn't easy because the ego gets in the way. The ego will say all kinds of stuff like, this person's not deserving of it. Oh, you're full of shit. Things like that. I know that because I used to say that. And those thoughts still come up, but I have to look at them without touching them. And that is the practice when we say in yoga, yoga is the observation of mind fluctuations. It's recognizing that certain thoughts are going to be triggered within the mind. And it doesn't mean necessarily getting rid of it or trying to make it disappear. It'll disappear on its own if we don't touch it. But when we feed it, when we give it attention, these thoughts, these mind forms, when we let it agitate us, well, that's when we start to react to it. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, let it go. Slowly roll onto your back. Release the right arm down along the sides. Bend both knees. And then let's go over to our other side. Roll onto your left hip. Reach your left arm above the head. You can either have knees bent or straighten through your legs. Let the left ear rest on the left shoulder. Mahatma Gandhi said, "It is easy enough to be friendly to one's friends, but to befriend the one who regards himself as your enemy is the quintessence of true religion. The other is mere business." I'll say that again. It is easy enough to be friendly to one's friends, but to befriend the one who regards himself as your enemy is the quintessence of true religion. The other is mere business. Take a full breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhaling. And one more deep breath in. And exhale. Slowly, let's make our way onto our bellies. And as we make our way onto our bellies, let's come onto our forearms, coming into a Sphinx pose. As we come into a Sphinx pose, turn your palms face down, lift your chest up, and press your forearms down into the ground. Lengthen through your legs, point your toes, and lift your chest up. Spread through your collarbones. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, "We must learn to regard people less in the light of what they do or omit to do, and more in the light of what they suffer." And there's a lot of suffering in this world. And when I see suffering in this world going on, what I tend to do is look internally to understand where I am suffering. I ask myself, why is this showing up in my presence? At times. And then I'll ask myself, what can I do to make this better? And sometimes it's not necessarily acting at all. Sometimes it's just a prayer. Sometimes it is just holding a little bit of a space. Sometimes it's just sending a little love to that person that maybe is not quite able to receive it yet, but that's okay. Or maybe I'm, not in proximity yet to be able to do something about it physically. But when we see suffering and we're not quite sure what to do about it, what we can do is just look at our own hearts and ask our own hearts, what is the best course of action? It's a lot easier based on the conditioning of society to say, let them suffer. This person needs to suffer. look at what they did, this, that, and the other. And I know that that's not always received well, but I'm not about the conditioned response. I'm more about what is unconditioned and looking at that response, because that is the one that is usually, what I have found anyways, of right course and right action to actually make some solid changes. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, please lower your chest down towards the ground. Aesop said, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." Place your right hand underneath your right shoulder. Take your left arm out to the left. Please take a full breath in. And on the exhale, legs together, roll onto your left hip and opening up through the left shoulder, left breast, left pectoralis major minor muscle. You can let the left side of the head rest on the ground. Deep breath in. Exhaling. Full breath in. Exhaling. Deep breath in. Exhaling. 2 more. Inhaling. Exhaling. And 1 more. Deep breath in. Exhaling. Slowly come back towards center. Take the right arm out to the right. Left hand underneath the left shoulder. Roll onto your right hip and open your chest to your left. As you open your chest to the left, stacking the left elbow over the left wrist, breathe into your right shoulder. Allow it to open up. Full breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhaling. Full breath in. Exhaling. And 1 more. Deep breath in. Exhaling. 1 more. Inhale. Gotta make it 5. And exhale. Come back towards center. As we come back towards center, slide the hands back by the low ribs, and then press back into a child's pose. As we press back into a child's pose, buttocks towards the heels, knees wide apart, crawl the hands out in front of you. You know, there's many different ways that, as I mentioned before, we can practice compassion. Personally, and I don't expect everyone to quite understand this, and I certainly don't want to sound like I'm forcing anything on anyone, but it was when I started dating Shelly and getting to know Shelly, my partner, where compassion really started to change. And my partner, she's a plant-based chef, and she's been doing that for 14 years, and I had been a carnivore my whole life, and I started listening to her and what she was talking about animals and the treatment of animals and things like that. And as a biology major, I always had a love for animals and plants and our environment. So when she started speaking to me about these things, it made sense to me. And then I started looking at, how I wasn't really practicing compassion as much by what I was seeing on videos and what was happening to some of these animals and things like that. So that was something, just sharing a personal story, and I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything. It's more just, that was an area in my life where I realized I lacked a lot of compassion because I wasn't really looking at the bigger picture. I was more concerned with what I was putting inside of my body and how it tasted. And that was like a big wake-up call for me. And so it started from there, and then looking more, obviously practicing yoga and teaching yoga, that made a big shift for me too. And there's a lot of talk of compassion and love, and it's just part of the process. And everybody's practice is different, and I certainly don't say to everybody, do what I do. Just, we have to find our own. Deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Deep breath in. And exhale, letting it go. All right. With your next inhale, please shift forward into a tabletop position. As we come into a tabletop position, shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's just start to get in some gentle movement here. Just circle your hips out. It's funny, sometimes I'm a little bit embarrassed, or not embarrassed, but shy about sharing certain things because I know that people hold such strong core beliefs about certain things, and I never ever want to make them feel bad or have them feel bad. And of course, I can't truly make anyone feel bad. They have to. It's on them themselves, but I can contribute to that, and I recognize that. So I never share in a way to make anybody feel bad intentionally. I just share out of my own humility of where I was at, and if it resonates with some people, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Go for 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. On the inhale, shifting back forward. Exhale, opposite direction, circle the hips out. And as you circle the hips out, rolling the shoulders, bending the elbows, just breathe. Go for 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. Inhaling, coming back towards center. On the exhale, I'd like us for it to come onto our buttocks and take our legs out in front of us. As you take your legs out in front of you, feel free to have a strap. If you'd like to have a strap, you can use that. Otherwise, you don't need to. Please flex through your feet. As you flex through your feet, arms reach up, inhale. And on the exhale, folding it in. And as you fold it in, just breath by breath, hold the posture. Reach your heart forward, Reach your hips back. You know, and when it comes to things, again, like compassion, or topics like compassion or trust or love or abundance, I say one of the best ways to practice is to just literally do that practice. See what it's like not to love. See what it's like to love. See what it's like not to practice compassion. See the reactions and the results. Then see what it's like to practice with compassion. Yeah, there is a difference. And life gives us many, many, many opportunities over and over and over again to practice these teachings. And just when we think that we have a really good strong hold of it, life, being what it is, will give us another way to not test us, because I don't think that life actually tests us. I think we're in our head if we're thinking that life is testing us. If I'm being in my heart with it, life just provides us what we need, always and in all ways in that moment. And so in knowing that and recognizing that, it's to just be with that shows up in the present moment and observe. Where can I practice compassion right here? As you stretch, where can you practice compassion in your own stretching practice? It starts with ourself. Deep breath in. Exhale. For some of us in a stretch, maybe we back off a little bit. That's the practice of compassion. For some of us, it may be going just a little bit deeper to see where the root of that is. For those of you that are looking to go even deeper into your practice, where there is a sensation, and if you are really present and close your eyes, where there is a sensation, there is also a very, very subtle narrative. If you go a little bit deeper, there is a little bit of a face that can start to be an image that can start to show up too. If you go a little bit deeper, there's something just beyond that too. And that is a teaching and that is a pointing that one of my teachers gave me that I have found so helpful in the letting go process and in the practice of compassion. What is in that space that you discover for yourself is for you to see. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale, folding in. And deep breath in. Exhale, folding in. On your next inhale, lift the chest up. Shake the legs out. All right. Let's bring the sole of the left foot to the inner right thigh. Let the left knee drop out to the left. Turn your body towards your right leg. Inhale, arms reaching upwards. Exhale, reach out and over your right leg. Fold over your right leg. And as you fold over your right leg, same thing. Move towards the stretch. Try not to avoid the stretch. It is the avoidance that often causes the tension to increase. We must not be afraid of feeling something in our own bodies. We must not be afraid of the sensation that arises. We must go into it for us to finally see
that it is not us, but we are the caretakers of these bodies, these temples that we walk through life with. And we must have a level of compassion if we want to be here for a little bit longer and enjoy it and enjoy our kids and grandkids and experience of living. We must take care of it while we have it. We must practice compassion towards it. Just as a small child, when it cries, we don't just let it cry. We pick it up and we hold it, we love it, we honor it. Well, when our bodies are crying out to us, same thing. Deep breath in. Exhale. Full breath in. Exhaling. And deep breath in. Exhaling. On your next inhale, lift your chest up. Take your left leg forward, bend your right knee, bring the sole of the right foot to the inner left thigh. Flex your left foot. Inhale, arms reaching upwards. Exhale, folding out and over the leg, fold in. Roll your right rib cage down towards the ground, press your left heel forward. As you fold in, connect to the sensation in your body that's showing up. Don't force it. Don't fight it. We don't need to fight our own bodies. As you hold and breathe, be aware of any narratives that come up as you hold the pose. I've learned to trust that nothing is by accident any longer that comes into my life. I cannot attest for anybody else's life, but I feel that there are no accidents. In my own life, I find that the accidents begin to occur when I'm practicing not being aware of my surroundings, when I'm not being aware of the self, when I'm in my head about something and not paying attention. The universe has a very unique way, or God, if you will, has a very unique way of delivering us what it is that we need. And what we need is always being represented by what is showing up in the present moment. We can fight that, but those thoughts that are coming up are just oftentimes, well, what I would say for myself, that would just be the ego. But learning to trust, learning to let go. And as they say, let go, let God, let go, let the universe in. See. Deep breath, inhale. Exhaling. And full breath in. Exhaling. On the inhale, lift the chest up. As we lift the chest up and come back up, let's cross our legs. As we cross our legs, cross just the normal way. And place the hands on the knees, palms face down. Lift the chest up and then start to circle your head out. Compassion towards all beings. And I find that it all comes down to our capacity and our ability to practice compassion, or also the teachers we align ourselves with. If we are aligning ourselves with a teacher that has hate rhetoric or anger rhetoric or frustration, or if we align ourselves with a leader that speaks in that way, well, of course we're going to have difficulties finding compassion towards others because we're wrapped up in the narrative of somebody else, which means we're giving somebody else that power, truthfully. But when we start to align ourselves with people that speak of love or speak of compassion or speak of kindness, well, typically those teachers that talk about that are also remind us and say that, listen, there's plenty of power going on, and remind you of your own power that you have to make the decision. Circle your spine out. I find that something else that's helpful, at least in my own practice, and I only share this because I feel that it's just helpful, is that I do recognize that I'm not this body. I have this body as a tool to use, to teach with, to share with, to grow things with, but I don't personally identify with it like I used to. I don't look in the mirror as much as I used to. I don't try to look a certain way like I used to in order to be received by others. It's just a body to me. It's a body that needs to be stretched and moved and open and taken care of. It's a body that needs to be rested. But in that, I don't necessarily have a fear of death that comes along with it too, because it's just a shell. And that's all it is to me, is a shell that I get to experience this lifetime through and with. On an inhale, please lift your chest up. Exhale, switch the crossing of the legs. Hands on knees, palms face down, lift the chest up, inhale. Exhale, circle the head out. But even it being just a shell, it's still deserving of love. It's still deserving of compassion. I don't need to beat it up. I don't need to race down the freeway at 100 miles an hour. I don't need to do silly things to potentially cause harm or damage to it, because I enjoy being here. And I enjoy and I love the people that I'm getting to experience and be with through spirit. And I never thought that I would used to experience life that way, because I was so caught up in my own body. But when I started making that transition and shift, and I can't really tell you when that was, circle the spine out, because I feel like it's just a long, slow set of realizations. But when you read a lot of yogic texts, they all kind of talk about it. And I feel it's so important because as it comes towards the end of life for some people, many people think that they are the body, and it becomes this very scary thing of leaving this shell. And practicing compassion towards that as well is important. And to handhold along the way as we move through this lifetime. Circling your spine, releasing the back, side waist. And I say the same thing with thoughts. Like, I realize there are thoughts in my head, but I am also more than just the thoughts that come through there. I don't have to think about that to say that. Whereas in the past, I may have had to really think about these things. There certainly becomes a level of knowing through meditation practices and stillness practices to understand what's phenomenal and what's not phenomenal, and to know the difference between the two. With your next inhale, please lift your chest back up.
And on the exhale, let it go. Inhale, arms reach upwards. Exhale, draw the hands down to the heart center. Inhale, arms out to the sides, reach up. Exhale, draw the hands down to the heart center. Inhale, arms out to the sides, we reach up. Exhale, hands down to the heart center. Let's uncross our legs. Please take your legs wide apart. As you take your legs wide apart, flex through your feet. As you flex through the feet, curl the toes back towards your nose. Press your inner thighs down, press the hamstrings down. Walk your hands forward out in front of you. You can use support if you like a bolster. I don't really feel like using one, so I'm not, but you certainly can if your body feels like it needs that today. Walk your hands forward. But the thing is, what I'm sharing really isn't a secret. It's all out there for those of us that, have read things like the Bible. It's all in the Bible too. It's in many different ways in the Torah, if you've read the Torah. The things that I share are all in different yogic texts. And the interesting thing is that it all aligns across the board. It's just whether or not we want to do the work and look at it. And that's the practice is, for me, I used to make a lot of reasons and excuses for not doing the work. And, it's all well and good, but it just delays the process, that's all. But the good news is, in the infinite nature of all of it, a delay is a delay is a delay. We'll get there anyways. It's just where we're at today, right here and right now. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Fold in a little more. Hold here for 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, letting it go. Walk the hands in. Because what I found is there's a lot of teachers out there in this world that can recite works and can memorize pages and passages, and that's all well and good. But to actually do the work and integrate it into our own line, and into our own life is a different type of teaching. Because that is a teaching of knowing rather than a teaching of just information. And that's unfortunately why we see a lot of leaders, especially spiritual leaders, that get into trouble down the line because while they can preach or repeat something, they're not actually integrating it into their own lives. And it's sort of like talking about, since I choose not to drink alcohol, it's one thing to talk about not drinking, and there's another to talk about it while also practicing not doing it. Go ahead and bring the legs together and come onto your backs. As you come onto your backs, gently rock side to side. And let's come into thread the needle pose. Lower your left foot down, cross your right ankle over the left thigh. Interlace the hands behind the back of the left hamstring. Use your right forearm to gently press the inner right thigh away from you. Back of the head is down. Then breathe into your lower back, breathe into your hips. If you need to move around just a little bit, that's okay. But try to, at some point, remain just a little bit still. Full breath in.
Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Full breath in. And exhale. Uncross the legs. Switch the crossing of the legs. Cross your left ankle over the right thigh. Opposite interlace of the hands behind the back of the right hamstring. Use your left forearm to press the inner left thigh away from you. Back of the head is down. Keep flexing through both feet. Smooth breath in. And smooth breath out. Deep breath in. Exhaling. Full breath in. Exhaling. Couple more. Inhaling. Exhaling. And one more. Deep breath in. Exhaling. Uncross the legs. As you uncross the legs, lightly shake the legs out. Let's come into a final twist. Right knee in, left leg long. Inhale, flex the feet. And on the exhale, twist across your body over to your left side. Right arm reaches out to the right, right shoulder down. Compassion is always here. It's just whether or not we are mentally aligned with it. Again, compassion is always here. It is whether or not we are mentally aligned with it or not. Full breath, inhale. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhaling. And full breath in. Exhaling. And please bring your right knee back in. Bring your left knee in, straighten the right leg forward. Inhale. Exhale, twist across your body over to your right side. Left arm reaching out to the left, left shoulder down. And I want to apologize for those that are alive that started at the beginning. I changed this class to a 75-minute class just because I needed about 15 minutes more sleep. My body was telling me I needed to get a little bit more rest this week. So if you showed up at 7:15 and it wasn't on yet, starting at 7:30 now on Fridays until something changes. Deep breath in. Exhale. Full breath in. Exhaling. And deep breath in. Exhaling. With your next inhale, come back towards center. Hug your left knee into your chest. Hug your right knee into your chest. Give it one final hug and a squeeze. Take a deep breath in, fill lungs up, sip in a little more air, hug it all together into a tight ball. And on the exhale, please release everything down towards the ground, Shavasana. Close the eyes. And as you close the eyes, just allow yourself to be here, letting go, present, aware, nothing more, nothing less. Amit Ray said, it does not matter how long you are spending on earth, how much money you have gathered, or how much attention you have received. It is the amount of positive vibration you have radiated in life that matters. Shavasana. And then bringing awareness to your breath and your bodies, to the inhales and exhales. Begin to lightly move the fingers and toes and circle out the wrists and ankles. Roll the shoulders out, turn the head side to side. With the deepest, longest inhale all day, arms reach up and over the head, palms touch. And on the exhale, release the arms down along the sides. Placing a gentle bend in the knees, please roll over to your left side. Use the right hand to press yourself up. Come seated. And as you come seated, gently bringing the hands to prayer, closing the eyes. I shared a quote last night with one of my classes by Alan Watts. He said, "To have faith is to trust yourself into the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float." And in all these teachings that I share, the only intention behind them is simply love. And it's not to necessarily grasp at them or hold them, but just simply to receive them and see if they make sense. To feel them, and if they feel right, good. If not, that's okay too. Everybody's practice is different. But in the practice of compassion, it is practicing compassion for ourselves first and foremost. Practicing compassion to the ones that are nearest and dearest to us in our life. And then continuing to expand that expansion outwards to strangers, to perceived enemies, to ones that frustrate us. Compassion is compassion is compassion. Let's finish the practice with the sound of Om. Inhale. Full breath in. And exhale, bowing the head down towards the hands, honoring yourself today, your practices for showing up on your mats. We honor ourselves, our friends, our families, our loved ones. In gratitude to all the blessings and abundance that continue to show up in our lives, and in gratitude to the many teachers and guides that came long before us who passed along these practices called yoga. Releasing the hands down, opening the eyes, and lifting your chins. Thank you so much, friends, for joining. Thank you for being a part of my life. As always, if anything I ever say doesn't make sense, please reach out. And please, please, please call me on my bullshit. If I ever do something, say something to me, please. Because there are many times where I'm covered sometimes with my own ego that I don't see, and we're all, I feel, uncovering our own shadows of it. So please say something to me. As my teacher once said, we stand so close to our own shit we can't always smell it. So I appreciate you. I love you. I'm grateful for all of you. And please reach out if you need anything from me or my family. Ho'oponopono aho. Namaste, friends.